Dread here. I'm joined with Control Chaos and Draco, and we are going to discuss the Nintendo patent. How you doing, guys?
How are you guys doing?
Doing well,
I'm
thank
doing
you.
Great.
That's great. So, with this patent that Nintendo has gotten approved just recently, like within the last month, the U.S. Patent Office has approved this patent for that Nintendo put in for gameplay mechanics on summoning characters, creatures.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's two patents. Are we going to talk about both?
No, we're talking about this
Okay.
the gameplay mechanics patent.
So is
of
that
summoning
Well, they're
creatures.
both
3397
gameplay
or
mechanics. Yeah.
Yes, I'm
3397.
talking about the summoning one. Let's hit that because that's a major one.
okay?
Yep.
And
Yeah,
so, with that, let's go ahead and start with Dread and your thoughts on this patent and how it will affect the games industry.
Well, I'm kind of curious as to how the patent got through. It's Draco and I were talking about this because we play a lot of games that it's probably gonna affect. But I mean, a lot of these things like getting on an animal to ride it or calling it to you or putting it out there to fight whatever. A lot of that is like real life mechanics. How do you put a patent on real life mechanics? I mean, if I go ride a horse, am I going to have to pay Nintendo to go ride my horse? You know what I mean?
So that's an interesting way to look at it. I never actually thought of it that way. And
if I call my cat over to sit on my lap, or it's like
or to play with the cat toy that you're holding.
Yeah,
because they literally state that it's a gameplay mechanic. And that they're referencing video games in this whole entire thing. I think it's condensed just to video games.
Well, I understand that, but I'm just saying even the video game mechanic, it represents things that can happen in real life. It's nothing new. It's not like they're reinventing the wheel.
Yeah, true. and that's an interesting point you make. And how it got passed, I have a feeling on how it got passed. And I want to state my feelings on how it got passed. We in the U.S. currently have a president that is a billionaire. And they've been surrounded their entire life by yes men. And people doing things for them, and they do little things for those people. I think Nintendo purposely put in at this time because we have that type of president and the people in the patents office. Because when a president comes into office and someone in the patent office, the chairs of the patent office steps down, the president can put someone in place of the patent office as a chair.
But has he?
Right now,
or is the same person?
What happens in the patent office right now is there's normally 5 chairs to the patent office. 2 of them, because of the current president we have resigned. The 3 left are 2 that were assigned by our current president and 1 that was not. So where does that lead you when our current president is doing favors for different companies?
Well,
which should not be happening. This wouldn't happen. This has never happened before. This kind of patent honestly would have been shut down right away because it is too broad.
Okay, so when did this patent go through?
This patent went through in the last month.
Okay, so
Specifically 9/2/2025. So
Right.
Yep.
basically 18 days ago.
Exactly. And it was put in on February 22nd, 2024. And so it finally got
Well,
to the
it was
review process.
it was originally filed in March 1st, 2023, but yeah,
Yeah.
they reviewed it or whatever in 2020.
Exactly. It takes the patent office, just like everything else. Government in the U.S. is very, very, very slow. Bunch of red tape, stuff like that.
And I would
So,
like I was
go
going to say,
ahead.
I'd like to say it's not just Nintendo either, right? It's Nintendo Company Limited and the Pokemon Company.
Yes.
well,
They
That's
both are
because
assigned.
the Pokemon Company is a subsidiary of Nintendo. They're owned by Nintendo.
so
Right.
according to Reuters, the U.S. Senate just this past Thursday confirmed John Squires, former chief intellectual property attorney at banking giant Goldman Sachs, to lead the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office under Republican President Donald Trump. So, I mean,
Mhm.
his person didn't even get in there till just now. So
no,
it
he
had to have
had
been
two.
somebody
Yeah.
before.
That's filling one of the 5 gaps. Remember, 2 of the 5 resigned. So they're needing to replace those 2. When someone resigns, the president puts up a recommendation, and then the Senate and the Congress confirm that person.
Right. So the
Mhm.
other
So they
two
just
that were
added
already
in a 4th
Okay.
after this has happened. You
right. The
know,
other two that were part of Trump's thing could have been his last time when he was president. Could have been
exactly.
in between. Who knows?
Well, not in between, because in between we had Biden, and so
So
that
nothing
would
was
mean
happening.
that you know. But what I want to talk about is, let's dig more into the gameplay mechanics. I want to talk about how I feel about this. Honestly, I don't think they should have passed for multiple reasons. One, the gameplay mechanics that they're talking about here have been around since the 80s and 90s. Summoning of a sub character to help you out has been around in games such as Diablo, Baldur's Gate, Final Fantasies, and a bunch of
I,
other games
yeah.
that have been around for a really, really long time. Are they going to go back and tell the developers of EverQuest and World of Warcraft, you have to take out the elemental or the mage, you have to take out the necromancer, you have to take out the hunter, you have to
Mount.
take out your mounts and stuff like that?
So
It's an uphill battle for them.
before we go any further on that, I just wanted to say that in the research I did, I found out that when a U.S. Patent Office gives such a patent like this, that it only grants the right for them to initiate legal action. So companies basically, if they make a game, use it, offer it for sale or import in the US only, then Nintendo can take legal action. So, with that, for this patent to have been issued, right, they must have met these 4 conditions. 1, able to be used, such as it cannot be a theory and it must actually work. They have to do a clear description of how to make it work and use in the system. So, in other words, like a tutorial or whatever, which is what we're all used to. And then to touch on what you're talking about is 3, it has to be new or novel, something that is not done before. And then 4 is it has to be not obvious, quote unquote, as related to changing something already invented. So yeah, how did these get passed? Like you
It
said,
literally
it's got to
breaks
be
everything you just
favoritism.
stated.
Yeah, exactly. That's like I was saying the same thing to Dredge, from the way I interpret this, is this was filed, like you said, or like I said, sorry, in March of 23. It was looked at again in February 2024, and it finally passed on September 2nd this year. But how? Because even if you go back and you look at when Pokemon video games came out, it was, I think I said, what, 95, 96, Dread?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
96, I
so,
think.
okay. As far as I understand, this only applies from September 2nd this year. You can't go back, in my opinion, and like you're saying, say, okay, all you other guys, this is now, according to US law, our intellectual property. Because you're going to go up against Xbox, Microsoft,
Like,
these people
yeah.
have money. You're going to shut down some of the smaller developers and publishers and all, but they'll just find ways around it. This is, again, only in the US. You can sell, they can make copies. Like, let's take the Pal World thing, for instance. That is also, from what my research said, I believe, a Japanese company.
It is.
And so, as long as they don't sell or do anything with the US, they can still do it in other places like England, France, Germany, Russia. It's not going to really affect anyone except for us US gamers, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
and I see where you're going with that, and I 100% agree. And what is that going to do? That is going to cause the U.S. companies like Microsoft, like
Well, what the hell
Blizzard,
happened?
Activision, and
Mhm.
stuff like that to go after Nintendo.
Yeah,
They're
because
going
like
to
you
want
said,
to fight
I hope they have
Nintendo
deep
because
pockets.
they do all
well, I
have deep
mean,
pockets. And
yeah,
if they group up together and do a class action lawsuit against Nintendo,
oh yeah, that would be even worse.
Nintendo's going
I
to
was
and
be.
thinking
stuff like
only
that.
individual.
And that's the problem, because this isn't the first time a gameplay mechanic has been patented. Let's look at Warner Brothers and their Nemesis thing that they used in Lord of the Rings, Mordor video games.
Yeah, and Shadow of War. Yeah,
Yeah, and Shadow of Warrior. It was used in those two games, and no one else can do a system like that where you have an enemy that gains power every time they defeat you. No other game can do that. And all these game companies are afraid to touch it. The reason I think that one is legit is because they literally came up with the gameplay mechanic, made the patent, and made the game. It was the first game to really sort of do that kind of thing. So that's a legit patent. I'm not going to argue about that patent. Do I
right.
like that patent? No, because it's controlling the creativity of the developers. Another
Yeah,
developer can't go and go, oh, that was a cool gameplay mechanic. Let me go ahead and tweak some of the design of it and do my own code on it. It
now
used to be with game development, as long as your code was your code, you didn't take someone else's code, someone else's art to make your game without their permission, you were good, golden, and clear. There are so
yeah.
many games that use gameplay mechanics from other games and are influenced by other games. That's how
Mhm.
things grow. You know,
Yeah, I
if
mean, it's the
every
same thing like movies and stuff. They're
Mhm.
all
exactly.
influenced by everything.
Exactly. I mean, if
There are
companies
no more
start going
original
out,
ideas.
if companies start going out and saying, "I'm gonna patent this gameplay mechanic," you're gonna get just one game of that type. We'll only see one
Yeah.
survival game because someone's gonna come out and patent survival gameplay mechanics. We're only gonna
Yeah.
see one battle royale game because someone's going to patent the battle royale. Even though these battle
Right.
royales that we have, I mean, we have Fortnite, different gameplay than Apex Legends, different gameplay mechanics than PUBG.
Different from Call of Duty.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think Nintendo's doing this mainly because of Power World.
Oh,
Power
yeah.
World being such a success because they took the capturing of animals and using them as pets, but changed it dramatically from what Pokemon does. Pokemon is capture the animal, use them to attack another animal. Yes, Power World does that, but in Power World, you can have your animals as mounts. You can have your
Yeah.
animals doing construction and work in your bases of fabricating and farming and things like that.
Like Ark.
It's an
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot more than that.
Conan
So
Exiles.
I
Yeah.
think later on this patent is going to get re-reviewed and it's going to get denied. I think
Yeah. Well,
once we have different people in the office of power, they're going to relook at it and go, no. And who knows? It could be that all these big companies like Microsoft and stuff like that do sue about this and it goes to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court makes a decision and we have a new law for patents. And
Yep.
in all honesty, I really, really do hope it goes that direction because I think we need tighter laws on what can and cannot be done for patents.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is because, like you said, all of these other companies, Microsoft, Xbox, Funcom, because this even would hit Dune, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because of the summoning of the sandbike and the other the ornithopters and stuff. But these companies, even if they do separate lawsuits, they could keep up with Nintendo. But like you said, I wasn't even thinking if they do a class action and they pool all their resources together. I think what's going to happen is because this patent, as you said, can come under review at any point in time, especially if it's contested by a class action suit or any lawsuit. But here's the thing, right? Is what I was researching is they can use the argument these bigger companies could just go ahead and keep doing what they're doing. And as soon as because Nintendo would have to seek or initiate the legal action for
Mm-hmm.
them doing that, right? Then the burden of money is on Nintendo. Yeah, the other ones will still have to pay for law fee, court fees, whatever, all that. But in the end, all those other companies have to do is say, you gave them the patent, but yet what they have is nothing new or novel, which the patent should have never been, you know, given to
Right.
Nintendo. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where it's going to lead. I don't think that. I mean, it might happen, like you said. These companies might get together and take action first before that happens. But I'm feeling that it's going to be like, no, we want Nintendo to bear the burden of the cost because, as far as I know, in you know legal terms, and of course, this is no legal advice or anything in that because
Mm-hmm.
I don't know too much legal, but from my classes is if Nintendo initiates the legal action, then they bear the financial burden. Yes, the other parties, the defendants, have to pay as well, but that like other videos out there that I've seen on YouTube and stuff saying, oh, nobody can go against Nintendo because Nintendo's a multi-million billion dollar company, and it's like, yeah, but if they have to initiate the legal action, they're not going to have as much money, especially like you're saying, Chaos. Microsoft, Xbox, PlayStation, if all those guys do a class action, and as soon as that class action hits, all these other smaller developers can support it.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be it for Nintendo. Plus,
Oh yeah, definitely. Here's another thing I just remembered.
yep,
If if they don't do the class action lawsuit, and let's say Microsoft comes out with a game where you're summoning a horse to ride, and
right,
Nintendo doesn't go after them, but then a small independent developer creates a game where you're
yep,
summoning something, and they go
yep.
after them.
That's going to
If
cause a
you're
whole
that
lot of
small
shit.
independent developer listening to this, take
Yep,
it to court. Here's the
take it all the
reason
way.
why. The reason why is the judge will look at that and you want to state, look, we did this after they put out this patent, but
But
Microsoft
so
put
did
out this game that did this, and they didn't go after Microsoft. Therefore, they are not protecting their patent. Therefore, it's null and void because you have to religiously protect your patent. You have to go after everyone
Exactly.
who infringes it. If you do not go after the people who infringes on your patent or give them a license to it, you automatically lose the rights to that patent.
Can I interject?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Please.
so Pokemon was created for Nintendo's Game Boy and Nintendo, generally.
Mhm.
Right.
Pal World was made for the Windows, PlayStation, and Xbox platforms. This would
Mhm.
totally be a non-issue if Pal World made their game for the Nintendo game devices.
Oh,
They would
I
not even care. This is just a money grab. It's corporate greed.
I have to slightly disagree. And the reason being is when you create a game and you want to put it on the platform, you present it to the platform. The platform owners can decide, yes, we will accept this game, or no, we will not. I bet you anything that they may have tried to present it to Nintendo and say, we want to be on your system. They looked at it and they saw the slight similarities to Pokemon. Pokemon's a huge seller for them on their platform, that they would have sat there and said, no, that's too much competition on our platform.
Maybe, but we don't know that for sure.
True. That you are 100% correct. We do not know that for sure, but I've seen it happen before working in the industry. Apple, for instance, you can't say that your game's cross-platformed. They don't like it. They don't like you saying it's available on this, it's available on that, it's available on this. They also state that, if you make a game for our devices, whether it be the iPhone, the Mac, or whatever, you have to build the thing on a Mac.
Mhm.
So you have to spend the extra money to get their devices to build it, even though you can make the build of the game on the PC. Now,
Right.
there is a workaround on that both Unity and the Unreal Engine has done, which is they say, hey, we will make the build for you. And so they will do it on Mac on their end, so that it is being done on a Mac. And I think that's a smart move. And I think that's what these companies need to do. And that's where developers are very creative.
Mhm.
I see that if this goes to court, Nintendo is going to run across people that are smarter than them and work their way around this whole entire summoning thing. I already have an idea of how I would do my own to where it would work around, and the courts would look at it and go, oh, well, they're not summoning it. They're doing it a different way. Their
Right.
gameplay
So
mechanics you didn't think of that they're using to bring this creature into the world. So it's not really a summon in
yeah.
per se because of the gameplay mechanics. And I'm not going to state what those gameplay mechanics are because you know that there's that 1% at the end. Go out there and go,
Yeah.
oh, that's a cool idea. I'm going to put a patent on that before they do.
Mhm.
Right. So as I was saying as well too, or I want to remind people of, is that this is only in the US. This isn't even a foreign patent, which is a whole different beast of its own. So
Yeah.
what's to say, hypothetically, that the uh, companies that are selling these games in America decide, okay, fine, we'll not sell these games in America anymore. Do you know what's going to happen in the gamer community? The gamer community is going to go nuts.
Oh, yeah.
It is.
They'll get upset.
But what if we already
Yeah.
have the games?
Well,
Can they just
here's the
take them
thing.
away from us?
Well, it depends on how you have it. If you have
Yeah.
it on Steam, Steam has a licensing system.
Mhm.
You don't buy the game when you buy it on Steam. You
Mhm.
purchase the agreement of usage. So all Steam would have to do is take that off their platform, and you no longer have access to
Yep.
Then I would want a refund.
it. No,
Exactly.
because
And be,
you bought part of the license to play it as long as if you read some of the end user license agreements
Mhm.
for Steam. I believe it says, and it's been a while since I read it, that it says that you, because this was just a recent issue in the last few years, you agree to having access only, and if the game no longer becomes available for them to list on the Steam system, then you agree that you can't take action against them.
Mm.
So you couldn't ask for a refund because people were pissing off about that, because they're like, oh, well, what do you mean I'm not buying the game? And it's like they went to court with it and said, hey, this is what you agreed to. Sorry.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing we have to look at is the player backlash.
Yeah, the player. Oh,
The player backlash is going to be huge if Nintendo heavily tries to enforce this, especially if they go after games like EverQuest and the
Arc.
Ultima series and Arc
Ultima
and stuff like that.
series.
If they go after those companies and try to get them to pull those mechanics out, those players are going to rise up against Nintendo. And there are
Yep.
more non-Nintendo game players than there are Nintendo game players.
Yep. And
And
not only that, but
it
people
could
are
ruin
already
Nintendo.
upset.
Yeah,
I was going to
that
say,
could
not only
ruin
that, people
Nintendo.
are already upset at Nintendo about the high price for the Switch 2, the increase in Switch 2 games, the fact that they can't use their pre-existing Switch 1 games on Switch 2 unless they pay for some
Upgrade.
upgrade. Yeah, thank you. I
That's
was looking for
that's
the
always
word.
been a thing though with Xbox and PlayStation too. Also, I mean,
No,
well, I
No,
own
no,
I
not in the
owned
way
a
that Nintendo does it.
When I got my Xbox One, I was able to transfer for free my back library on the Xbox 360.
Yeah.
well when I had I had our gaming system and we upgraded to the 360. Nothing before that worked.
Okay,
So what they did was is called a back play.
yeah, backwards compatibility.
Yeah, backwards
They have to
compatibility back play.
introduce that technology. Once they introduce that technology, if you already owned the game,
Hmm.
it just automatically carried it over. And I've done that with multiple of my games. And I was actually working at Microsoft Game Studios and helping in testing and making sure that worked.
Yeah, people were worried when the Xbox Series X and S came out, because it wasn't mentioned if it would be backward compatible or
Right.
not.
Yeah.
And after, a few months or some time, they were like, well, we didn't think of that, but we will try and implement it. And it took them a little time, because what they had to do was, instead of the backward compatibility, and I thought this was very smart for Xbox, is if you had the game on Xbox One X or S and you got a Series X or S, what they did was, instead of backward compatibility, is they wanted you to have better graphics. So what they did is if the game made a Series X or S version, they gave you that version for free.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then they were able to implement slowly some of the other games.
yeah, it's when they do like the remastering of a game and they update the graphics of a game that they'll resell it. And some of these companies, like for instance, let's look at was Relic. Relic just did the remastering of the original Dawns of War, increasing the textures and stuff like that. They sold it at a good price, but if you already owned Dawns of War, you automatically got 30% off.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
And I actually bought it because they did some code cleanup and it runs better on 64-bit systems and stuff like that, because Dawns of War came out before. And so it's companies doing good-natured things like that that make them survive and thrive. Look at No Man's Sky. Great example. They don't charge for updates. They listen to what the player base wants. They implement it. It may take them some time to do, but they do it. And their sales keep on going up and up and up because you got that catalog of 9 years of content for free to download.
Yep.
And so the player base when it launched was upset. They didn't like the quality of the game. But the developers did the work and improved the game at no cost to the player base. And it's the good faith that we need to have of these companies. And when you get bad faith companies coming in and doing stuff like what Nintendo's doing here, history has proven time and time again that either the developers will back away, or the publisher or developer will back away from what they're doing, or they'll get shut down. Couple
Yep.
examples I have. SSI, a video game company. They made games such as Final Liberation, Warhammer 40,000 Final Liberations, Warhammer 40,000 Chaos Gates. And they had a contract, a license with Games Workshop to make these games. They had a contract to do 3 games. They did a game, they promised to do patches, and an expansion. This is when expansions were popular.
Mhm.
And then they did like 1 patch, which barely fixed anything, and then they came out with Chaos Gates. They promised the same things again. They did a couple patches, and then they did Rights of War. And they took out a huge loan to do Rights of War. They sold 200 copies. Why? Because the Warhammer 40,000 fan base was sick and tired of being lied to and manipulated.
Yep.
SSI immediately went bankrupt after that and shut down. Another example is, what was it? Sony Online Entertainment and Star Wars Galaxies. They came out with this patch to change how combat worked. Players didn't like it. Players unsubscribed in masses. Sony Online Entertainment came out and said, oops, we made a mistake. We went the wrong direction. We're back rolling that patch and putting the game back to the way it was. And all of a sudden, all those subscribers returned. So if people say that we don't have an influence, I say BS. There just has to
Yep.
be enough of us willing to speak up and against what they're doing. Because these companies, all they care about is the money and the shareholders. That is the only thing they care about. And if you affect the money, you affect the shareholders. And by affecting the
That's
money, you basically stop buying their product.
Well, that's the whole point of capitalism and going into business for yourself is for money. But
yeah, but
they
you don't
forget
have to be.
they
Yeah.
forget
no.
that the money comes from someplace, and that's us,
Yeah, your consumers.
the gamers.
Yep. And if you make your consumers happy, the money will come.
Right.
Another great example of this isn't a game example, but an example is a CEO for a credit card transaction company in Seattle, Washington. He decides that he wants to make everyone working for him have a livable wage, a minimum salary of $70,000 a year.
Mhm.
In order to do this, he decides that the executives, including him, are going to take a pay cut.
Mhm.
Even him took a huge pay cut. Executives left, and he replaced those executives. The employees were extremely happy because now they're not worrying on how to pay bills,
Right.
how to do things like that. They're not focused on how am I going to handle my medical issues? How am I going to pay rent? They're able to focus on their job. They're able to focus on the customers. So they're able to make the customers happy and do their job right. The customers are happy. More customers flow in. More money's flowing in. Instead of him using that money and holding on to that money, he hires more people. He expands the company.
Right.
And the company actually ends up tripling in profits because of what they did. So you treat your employees well, your employees will treat your customers well, your customers will be your advocates. And the number one thing that will get you sales is if a friend or family member comes up to you and says, this is a really good product, you need to check that out.
So that's one
Right.
thing I learned in my business degree about business. We had one instructor. She would always say, businesses are in business to make money, but
Mhm.
there's one thing to remember, and that's the consumers
Yep.
of your product or whatever. Because, like you said, if you make them happy, they will again do free marketing for you by word of mouth, which is the best advertising you can get. Because you might say to 4 or 5 people, hey, I really like this product. I think you should get it. And then they go and tell 4 or 5 people. But if a
Right.
company does bad service to their customers, you're going to go out and tell everybody that you see using that product that this is the story that happened to you, blah, blah, blah. And it's going to be bad advertising.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
that is exactly the nail on the head chaos. You nailed it right there. That if us as gamers are unhappy with what Nintendo is doing, we need to, like you said, hit them where it hurts in the
Yeah.
wallet.
Yep. Now, is this going to happen 100%? No. There's going to be those fanboys that will stand by Nintendo because they grew up
Oh, exactly.
on Nintendo and will buy anything that Nintendo throws at them. And I think that's where Nintendo got relaxed. And a lot of game companies
Yep.
do this. Activision's guilty of doing it.
Yep.
EA's guilty of doing it. I mean, look at the Call of Duties that come out. Look at the FIFAs that come out. They're rinse
Yep.
and repeats with just slight stat changes from the year before.
Or
Maybe some
slightly
slight
better
graphics
graphics. Yeah.
Right.
updates. Do you see huge gameplay change mechanics? No. Do you
No.
see anything original? No.
No.
And that's where the indies developers are really taking off. I mean, look at Baldur's Gate 3, for God's sakes, made by
Oh
an
yeah.
indie company. It
Yeah.
blew everyone out of the water.
Yeah. It won the award for Game of the Year. It
Yeah.
came out.
And it's because they actually push the boundaries. A lot of these big companies are getting too comfortable nowadays. And they need to start learning to compete, because if they don't start competing and start being innovative, they're going to get left behind and they're going to get forgotten.
Yep.
Because we got these really strong developers like
Y-
Sean Murray who are being creative. Is his company, Hello Games, owned by one of the big companies? No. And then if we also look at Raph Cosner with Stars Reach, being
Yep.
innovative there, and he's always been innovative. People have always told him that's not going to work, and he's proved them wrong time and time again. You know, that's going to, you know, create an echo of making these, companies worry. They're already worried with what's going on in sales dipping of AAA games, because people are sick and
Yep.
tired of this same old, same old. Us gamers want something new. And by Nintendo
Hmm.
doing this, oh, you can't use summoning mechanics, that ties the hands of the developers. But it's the creative developers that are going to know how to undo that knot, to untie the hands and go, oh, I got a way around that.
Yep.
Hmm.
And it's those developers that need to stand up to Nintendo. I know it's going to be costly, but if all of them come together and work together and pool their money, like we were talking the big companies do, they can get the money to proceed. And there are some circumstances in the US where there's the what's called the American rule for legal terms, where if you're sued, you have to pay your own legal fees, which is why a lot of people don't contest a lawsuit brought against them, because they don't have the
Hmm.
money.
Hmm.
There are a few things that can stop that. Harassment can
Right.
be, you can have the person that sued you pay your legal fees for something of harassment. If you talk to the judge and say, hey, they did this to stop me, and that's not right, the judge can also make a determination on whether the person who sued you has to pay your legal fees if you win.
Right.
So don't just think outright that, oh, I'm in America, I can't afford this. Plus, there's also pro bono lawyers. You can
Yep.
find a lawyer who's willing to do it pro bono. It's really hard to find them, but they might find that the case interesting enough to them. And part of the reason they do these pro bono work is if that case gets a high profile status, which this being Nintendo, it's going to be high profile status.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The lawyer's
It's one
going to
of the
look at
top
that
3.
and say, hey, look, if we win this is going to make my law firm look really good, and it's going
Yep.
to be announced to the world. So it's like advertisement to them.
Yeah. Free advertisement. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And so don't think that just because you're small and don't have the money that, there's nothing you can do. You just need to go out there and find the right way to handle the situation. If Nintendo would have came at this and said, okay, summoning any character from a ball, I
Right.
think this would be
That
legit
would be
because they
different.
did
Yeah.
Pokemon, and that's how the summoning was done.
Right. So to kind of step on that, um, it in the abstract of this, of course, as you and I talked about, is we as gamers, and I talked with earlier about this word summoning. That is a word that we as gamers use. So
Oh, yeah.
our audiences understand what we're saying, but in the actual abstract, it just says about an information processing system moving a player character onto a field based on a movement operation input. So that means if you press, a button, not the button A, but just a button or a key on your keyboard to bring in another, as it stated, sub character, and you can give it commands to fight or fight automatically. This is what summoning is. That's what we call summoning. So they, of course, legal document has to word it differently. So for those of
Yep.
us gamers, knowing what that legalese is, we call it summoning. So I don't want any confusion for our audiences, because that might not game as much as some of us. That it as Chaos said, if it was stated as using a device such as a ball to bring a sub character onto the field, that would be a whole different patent, because yes, they were the innovators of that, but
Right.
they're not the innovators of bringing on a sub character uh, to the battlefield and give commands, because the way that the legalese is worded, you might as well be going after games like Final Fantasy, who do turn-based systems, and you control your characters and command them to do battle.
Yeah.
And
Or
you usually
Diablo.
And
Blizzard's
Diablo. Yeah.
The Necromancer in Diablo 2. That was
Yeah.
before
I was getting to that.
Pokemon
Yeah.
came out.
Yeah. Also, not only that, but EverQuest, which was also a Sony Online game at one point, like you said, has the Necromancer who summons a skeleton pet or a ghoul or whatever. It also had
a
the Magician,
skeleton,
which
and then you have the Magician that summons the elementals.
the
You even have
elementals,
the Shadow
the
Knights that summon a skeleton. You have the
skeleton,
Beastmaster that summons
Beastmaster summons thing.
an animal.
As you said,
Yeah,
in World of
Enchanter, the
Warcraft, you
shield
got the
and sword.
hunter. Yeah, the hunter. In World of Warcraft. I mean, you can't. Again, for me, it just seems laughable that they think that they
Oh, yeah.
can, have the patent on this and not have some type of repercussion. Either A, big companies that have already been using it because that's not a new or novel idea, or B, the gamers, us, community is going to get upset because now all of our favorite games are going to be gone, basically, or designed. And yeah, I think that this isn't going to hold long. I don't think it will. And if it does, maybe I'll quit gaming. I don't know because apparently I
I'm
won't know
not gonna
nothing.
quit gaming. Here's my plan. If this holds and no one takes actions, I am literally going to make a game that brings in other characters that you control. But it's going to be a completely different way of doing it. It's going to look different. It's going to feel different than what
Mhm.
they're sort of describing here. It's going to be close
Yeah.
enough to where Nintendo will attack and I will go to court
Nice.
over
That
this.
would be
Because I'm going to
something.
have the documentation to say, did you think of this? I mean, I mentioned to my lawyer, hey, you need to ask them these questions because you
Yeah.
have to think tactically. You have to ask them the questions of, did you come up with this idea? Did you
Yeah.
think of this? You need to bring up those previous references of the Final
Previous
Fantasy, of the
games. Yeah.
Diablos, and things like that, and say, look, they did that even before Pokemon came out.
I made the comment to Fred earlier, and I said Digimon, or no, Tamagotchi came
Mhm.
out about the same time as Pokemon with
Yeah.
digital pets. So does that mean that they should have filed, or that they could still file a petition and say that any game that has digital pets is property of ours?
Right?
Yeah. Well, as
You
you
know,
mentioned, Digimon. Why
and
didn't they go
Digimon.
after Digimon? They didn't attack Digimon
Yep.
that I know of. I mean, they may have, and they may have
And
lost. And that's
and
where the patent office should have looked at that. That
here's
they
another
should have
thing.
sat there and said, okay, we have Digimon. That's similarity to them. Did they go
Mhm.
after Digimon? If so,
No.
what was the result of them going after Digimon? And did they go after
So,
Digimon in the US?
so here's two more games I'm going to drop.
Mhm.
Video games that are based off of card games, just like Pokemon.
Mhm.
Okay. What about Yu-Gi-Oh?
Magic the Gathering.
Magic the Gathering.
The
You
Pokemon
know where I
collectible
was going
card
with
game
that.
would not none of the other collectible card games would have happened
Exactly.
without Magic the Gathering.
So what if those card games, because they were also, I mean, I can look online right now at Steam and find Magic the Gathering game, which is just the same as that. So what if they made a patent where, oh, you can't, do this, and made it not just for their video games, but for their collectible card games. Pokemon would then, or Nintendo would then have to abide by their patent. See,
Yep.
this is a slippery slope, and these
Very.
are all the different ways it can go. I mean, because if I was Wizards of the Coast, I would be like, Pokemon wouldn't exist if my game didn't exist. So I'm going to file a patent, and do this because we don't want. They're not going to change their video games. But Wizards of the Coast, which is owned by Hasbro, is going to have huge amounts of money and say in this if it comes down to this slippery slope, and that's where we're heading.
And you're 100% right. And the US player base is going to get riled up after this. They will protest.
Oh yeah,
We do it all
absolutely.
the time. That's how
Yep.
we see changes in things. I mean, grant there's not the changes that I'd like to see. I mean, we got EA holding on to IPs like Wing Commander
Yeah,
and Command and Conquer that they've done nothing with. NCSoft
yeah,
holding on to City Heroes IP and done nothing with them for
yeah.
over a decade or two. What's new? What's new about the newest Pokemon? Maybe a creature, the name. Any
Yeah.
real new
The slight
gameplay mechanics?
graphics.
No. They use the same gameplay mechanics over and over and over again. Nintendo has pretty much turned into what EA does, what Activision does, and stuff like that.
Hmm.
It's a rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
It's a
And now because
money grab.
and because other people are doing a similar product to theirs, is they're getting, like you said, upset, and they're just trying to find ways to try and, you know, I want to say agitate those companies into either basically submitting by
Mhm.
changing the game, or just, as you said, going out of business because they can't afford the lawsuits or whatever.
Or
And
shutting down the game. And that's
yeah,
the thing.
or
What that shows is that Nintendo is not willing to be innovative, because in all honesty, a good company would look at something like Power World and go, "Oh wow, they innovated that way. We need
yeah,
to start being innovative. We need to change
yeah,
things up. We've been static for too long." The companies
100%.
that rise up are the ones that don't try to stop another companies and other companies. Those ones will fold under the pressure. Instead, they go up and they go, okay, we need to come out with a different product. We need to
Yeah,
come out with something that's better than that.
yeah.
No,
I
I mean, Hershey's, big company. But then when
Yep,
the Mars bar came out, they freaked out. And so they had to come out with something to compete against the Mars bar.
yep.
Competition is not a threat in a capitalist society. It is a reason to innovate
Well,
and make your company better and to enhance how you do things.
and that's also why the government implemented the monopoly feature. I mean,
Hmm. And
they
big
want
companies like Microsoft have been
competition.
hit by it.
But
Yeah, they want competition
doesn't this
because not
create a
only does it,
monopoly?
no, no.
Yes, actually, it could.
I mean, it could.
Dread
Yes,
is
it
correct,
could.
because
It could, but it
Nintendo
doesn't.
now has, by this patent, now has a monopoly on summoning any creature in any video game. No one else can do it right now without Nintendo's permission. That is
Right, but
the
that
essence
doesn't
of a
mean
monopoly.
right, but that doesn't mean, like you said, that people can't switch it up, because they are
True.
saying they are saying the moving a sub character onto the field and doing like battle inputs or automatic battle things. So me, if I was going to do something, that included, say, pets or whatever, I would
Mm.
just keep it so that, okay, I I want a horse. Like in Ark, if you want a horse, you go and you start, breaking it in by riding it and feed it a carrot. And it bucks and moves around and you have to feed it another carrot. Now, what if, say, I got that horse, okay, but I don't have a system where I put it into a ball, or basically it is a constant in the world or
Mhm.
on the
Well,
field,
you make a
right?
great example.
then
So,
then you're going around that path. So I don't think it creates a monopoly, except for in the fact of the terms that they use of,
yes.
like we say, summoning,
Mm.
another thing,
So
and not just from a ball or whatever, but
it
you know
makes it makes more of a bottleneck
right.
than that. So you are correct. It makes a bottleneck, because like Ark, you mentioned, you're taming the creature. So the player is not actually bringing out that second
Exactly.
character. They're turning an NPC into a sub character, just like Charming and Enchanter Charming in EverQuest.
EverQuest.
They're
Yep.
not bringing out a sub character. They're turning an NPC into a sub character. And then
Well,
they don't have control of that sub character. That sub
It
character
does its
takes their
own thing.
own actions. Just like,
Yep.
for instance, another great example of an old game done on the PlayStation called Carnage Heart.
Oh yeah.
You
Yep.
made units, and you created these units and they would come into the field, but you did not control them. You programmed them on how to act. So that game there is safe. Nintendo can't go after that game. Just like
But see,
Nintendo
I think they
can't go
could,
after. No, they couldn't, because once again,
because
you're
you
not
are
controlling the
It-
character. You're
you just said,
programming
hold
it
on,
to
you're programming
give.
that is
That's control.
the abstract right there, is to move the sub character based on a second operation input. And when the enemy character is placed at a location of designation, the information process system controls the battle, or a secondary mode in which the battle automatically proceeds. So by you putting in the input and programming them, they could try and fight you on that. I'm not going to say they win or you would win or whatever, because who knows, but I'm just saying that there is the thing where people have said that, well, how does that affect games like StarCraft and like what you're saying, where I build a building or something that will then produce these, sub characters for me. So, and is that another way around this, or is that infected by,
Okay,
not
because you're actually
infected, but
giving. Okay, so StarCraft is a great example. You're giving input on where those sub characters that, yes, you are correct, you are summoning them, you are saying build this character. I'm now
right,
controlling them, telling them to go here. I'm putting in the input to go here. Where Carnage Heart goes different is because you're programming it. You're not actually putting in the input saying, go here, attack this. What you're instead doing is you're putting in code that says, scan this area. If this happens, then do this. So it
I see.
is not actually you controlling it. It is the
Right,
code that you've created controlling it.
right.
So
So
it's
it's a
a
different,
subput of a
it's a,
it's an input
yeah,
of an input. And it's
yeah,
not going to happen the
I,
same every time because there's the if statements or the
right,
else if statements and things like that. That's
right.
controlling that. Is the computer controlling it. Just like when you enchant when the enchanter enchants a character in EverQuest, you didn't completely control it. You didn't tell it, go attack here, stay here
Yeah,
type of thing.
it,
Or like,
it,
even better example, City of Heroes, charming or confusing the enemy. When you confuse the enemy, you have no control over which enemy they attack, where they go, when they run, or anything like that. You're just
right. It's
confusing
all
them and they
random.
randomly attack something else.
Yeah. But again, depending on how people interpret these things, you know, who's to say, that isn't what Nintendo did, implies or whatever. Then,
Exactly. And that's where the lawsuits are going to come in play.
yeah,
We got to see how Nintendo's going to attack on this. And that's where
it's
because this is so broad, what could end up happening is Nintendo looks at it and goes, well, that's not what we meant by this. We're not going to push our patent on this person. Oh, this person did something similar to ours, so we're going to push on this. And then it goes to legal on that. And then
yeah,
that company goes, wait, you didn't push the patent on these people that did this. And
yeah,
your thing is so broad that it covers this, therefore your patent's null and void. That's
right,
another direction this can take.
yeah.
But who's going to initiate all that? I mean,
Well,
what do you
Something
guys
according
like
to
what do
the,
you
be
what do you
Nintendo.
guys foresee in the future
according,
with these two patents? I mean,
Well, with
so,
this patent, there's multiple directions it can take.
oh yeah,
And the first direction is that Nintendo just attacks everyone.
mhm.
yeah,
Just full blanket goes after everyone. And the big companies get upset, they bundle together, and they countersue. Another direction it could go,
I don't think Nintendo has the pockets for it.
and they don't. Another direction it can go is that Nintendo ignores the big companies and lets them put out sub characters that are controlled. Then an indie comes in and makes a game where they're bringing in sub characters that they control, and Nintendo goes after them because they don't have deep pockets. But
But
that
yeah,
that's not
small
fair,
company is
and
smart
that
enough to know patent laws and know that because they didn't protect it against the big companies,
right,
they're
they can't.
safe because that's null and void.
Right.
yeah,
And
I
so
guess I
there's so
guess
many
time
different
will
directions
tell.
this could take. Yeah, we don't
yeah,
know until it
exactly. Time
actually
will
happens.
tell. But
We
to
have to get
answer
this right.
part of your question is, and Chaos said it right at the beginning of his statement there, is it is Nintendo's responsibility to initiate legal action, which
Right.
means they have to police everybody
Right.
Mhm.
and then either filter it, like he said, okay, we'll let these companies do it because they have deep pockets and can fight us, and go after the indie companies, which will then, as he said, the indie companies can say, well, you didn't do it against this company and your stuff is so broad. But there's, again, like I said, there's also the slippery slope of the consumers, the gamers like us, that they're going to rise up against Nintendo for any of this. I mean, there's, like Chaos said, there's so many directions this can go, and I can't wait to see what happens, to be honest.
So
Here's go ahead, Drake.
I was gonna say we should try to plan an event like this in the near future, like maybe 3 to 6 months, and see how that's
See where it's at.
progressing.
I
Yeah.
100% agree.
I like that
Right,
idea.
because right
6
now
months, we
it's
should come
right
back
now
and
it's
revisit this.
too new.
Yeah.
It just happened, and it's like, whoa, everybody's freaking out
Yes,
over it, and
it
nobody's
is,
done
but
anything yet.
it's something we do as gamers need to freak out about. We need to be worried about this. Here's the one
Well, I don't
good thing
think it
about
freak out, but we need to have a discussion about it, like we
yes,
are.
Yeah.
we need to pay attention to this because this could
Yes.
change the dynamics of the gaming industry. But here's the good news. Here's something that is 100%. This is going to cost Nintendo a buttload of money to protect.
Right, but I'm not
Oh,
going to
yeah.
They
lose
have
sleep
to
over it.
pay the lawyers to look at every single game that comes out that
Yeah.
might have a sub character that you control.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money coming out of Nintendo's pockets.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it.
Yeah, neither am I.
There's plenty of
Also, one
There's
thing I
plenty of
just thought
games
of-
out there to choose.
Yeah,
One thing I
there
just
are.
thought of.
Mhm.
What if what made me think about it is Chaos. You said that this is such a broad patent, and I agree with you. It is such
It
broad.
is broad.
It needs more defining. But
Yes.
okay, here's the thing. You talked about EA Sports, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in most of their sports games, there is a character you can pick, but you have the team or the sub characters, and you can control them as well.
There you go. This
Right?
is why being so broad is a bad thing. It hits
Exactly.
But do you
so
summon
many
them?
wide-branching
Do you
games.
summon them out of a contraption?
In a
Because
way,
even in the
yes,
But that's
because-
even in the
but hold on,
patent, it shows the picture
patent
of
the
a
patent
ball
shows
being
the
thrown.
picture as an example, but the legalese is the processing system moves a player character onto a field
Right.
based on movement operation input. That means if I push a
that's
button to switch
FIFA,
from
Madden,
yeah, if I push a button to switch from one character, we'll
PGA
take
Tour
Madden,
golf.
for instance. If I'm the quarterback and I throw the ball to my receiver, I then switch to my receiver, which is a sub character,
Yep.
and I switch to him by hitting a button,
Yep.
which is an input, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And then I control him.
Mm-hmm.
That would hit this patent. That's why it's so broad.
Well,
And
it
that's
can even go even
ridiculous.
further. It can go even further because you have backup players sitting on the bench. You have your secondary
Yeah,
quarterback.
exactly.
Primary with your secondary, that's pulling in a
When you-
sub character that you are then controlling.
When you substitute a player on the field, I mean, it
Ah.
literally says substitute.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's another way it could go, right? That
Oh,
just
yeah.
came to me when you were talking about it being so broad and everything. Like,
And this is why I brought you guys into the conversation. You guys
Yeah.
think differently than each of us. So you're bringing in different aspects of the game. Yes, me and Draco, we are long-term, like since the 80s gamers. Dread, you
yeah.
started about 5 to 8 years ago, but what you just brought up there made me and Draco rethink things and reevaluate things and look at things at a different angle,
Hmm.
Yeah.
which is
I
very, very good.
I like those types of collaborations,
Oh,
especially
yeah.
the fact
I'm
that,
I'm sorry
you
that
know,
I made you guys show your age.
Hey, I am
wow,
happy that I was raised in the 80s. I had so much
right,
fun playing in
right,
arcades, seeing these
yeah,
games evolve from lines and
yeah,
pixels
Well,
to
the
the
yeah.
ironic
3D
thing is
graphics
I'm
we
older
have
than
now.
both of you.
From Pong to Pac-Man to Madden to Pokemon, we've seen it all. But
Yeah.
no, I like the fact that it's not, all of us who are old time, gamers, because like he said, you do bring that fresh approach, and we all do think differently, but similarly at the same time,
Hmm.
So I love collaborations like this, and I am grateful, Chaos, for you to have brought us into these
Well,
conversations, not just this one, but our previous ones as well.
Yep,
yeah, the
I
reason
agree.
I keep bringing you guys back is because you guys are willing to listen, take the information in, and maybe change your mind, or just say, "Hey, I just think a little bit differently, and this is why."
Yep.
But
Yeah.
you're not just diehards of, "Nope, this is the way it is." You are willing to look at the information and rethink things,
You mean
and
You
it's
mean
the
I
we
can't?
have brains?
open-mindedness.
I was just about to say something similar. I was like, you mean I can't bring in that I grew up on Nintendo and I'm a Nintendo fanboy and just blow you both out of the water?
I had a
Well,
Nintendo.
my whole entire community, and I've said this multiple times before, is about open-minded people. Being able
Yeah.
to look outside of what you normally do and accept and looking at things in a different way, because
Mhm.
then you learn, then you adjust, then you play differently, then you do things differently. That's why, the videos I do of city heroes and creating the different characters. It's not saying, "Hey, this is the way you should make this character." It's saying, "This is the way I made it." And when someone else comes out in the comments and says, "Oh, I did this, but I did this tweak, and here's why,"
Mhm.
I'm like, "That's
Yeah.
cool. That's
Yeah.
interesting." I want people to think and be creative and do their own thing. I've always been of the thought of play the game the way you want to play it, as
Yep.
long as it doesn't make a negative impact on another player. As long as you're not like griefing another player who doesn't want to be griefed. And that's the other reason I like
Right.
having you guys here is when we do things in Dune Awakening or Stars Reach and we mess with one another, we've came to that agreement that, hey, it's okay for us to mess
Hmm.
with one another. We know it's all in fun.
Yep.
And what happens when we mess with the other person? The other person laughs. Like when I was taking down the flooring in Dune Awakening,
Yeah.
and Dred's character kept falling and going the same direction. I was taking down the flooring,
Yeah.
and you didn't get upset. What'd you do? You laughed hysterically,
Uh-huh.
and that's what makes
Yeah.
it fun.
And
And
when I
that's what,
was mining the dirt out from underneath Draco on Stars Reach.
yeah,
Yeah. And I
exactly.
won't I won't spoil our upcoming video for Monday if this airs before Monday, the 22nd of September. But
Yeah.
there is a scene in there where Controlled does a little prank on me, and at first I'm shocked, and then I'm laughing about it
Yeah.
and being like, "Damn it, you stole my idea."
That was a great one.
I was
That was
lucky. I,
good.
I ran out of I
I
ran out of there. I saw it coming. I ran out.
Yeah, you did. You did completely right out of there. But
All right, well, let's not give too much away. Yeah.
Nope.
exactly. But I think we've talked about this Nintendo patent enough and covered on multiple different areas. We've been talking about for about an hour and 15 minutes now.
Mhm.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I want to thank you both, Draco and Dread, for joining me in this conversation. For me, it brought new lights in how I look at this just by talking to the both of you about that.
Right. Well, I didn't have much to
Exactly.
say, but that's just me. I'm kind of quiet.
But
Well,
what
not
you
only that,
said
but you're
had an
new.
impact.
Yeah,
It made
exactly.
us look at things a different way. Like the last thing you
It's
mentioned about the patent made us rethink and look at other games besides just the regular summoning direction.
Hmm.
my
And
grandfather
so,
always told me that it's not how much you have to say, it's how you have to say it
Right?
exactly,
Or what you say.
exactly,
or
and
what
that's
you say.
why
Exactly.
I invite you into these conversations is because you don't say much, but when you say something, it has impact. It has meaning. There's thought
Yeah.
behind it. And that's also
Oh yeah.
why I invite Draco into this is what he says is actually thought out. It
Hmm.
has reasoning behind it. It's not just hearsay and thrown out there from imagination land.
Right.
Yeah. Or someone raging on YouTube about this or whatever.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah,
or
that video was
How dare
annoying.
you attack Nintendo controls? Nintendo's my favorite. I wouldn't have lived life without Mario
Hey,
and Luigi.
there were only a few games on Nintendo I remember liking. One
yeah,
was
same here.
Yeah.
Mario, of course.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Mario was good. I
yeah.
grew up on
Duck
Mario,
Hunt.
and
Duck Hunt.
Mario. Honestly, I'll tell you guys right now. Mario has a very deep spot in my heart
Mhm.
Yeah.
because when I was growing up and Nintendo came out and Super Mario Brothers was out, my best friend was going through cancer treatment and going through chemo,
Hmm.
Oh.
and we would spend hours playing Mario, Super Mario
Right.
Brothers together, and she was taking less pain medications. So it's
Right.
because of Super Mario Brothers that made it, her going through those treatments bearable.
Hmm.
And that's
Yeah.
where I like things like Extra Life and things like that, and promote
Absolutely.
those types of things.
Yep.
And
So,
so, Nintendo's, I thank Nintendo for that, but that was back then.
mhm.
They've changed
Right.
since then.
Oh yeah,
Oh, one thing I
Goonies
wanted to
3.
mention I forgot to bring up is even a former lawyer of Nintendo stated that he doesn't think that Nintendo should have gotten those US patent
Oh
laws.
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
I
And
read that article.
yeah,
yep. So
but
I think we're done here. Like I said, we've gone long enough, and
yeah,
I want to thank you both for being here, and everyone have a good night.
You too. Thank
later
you.
everyone.
Bye bye.
Don't forget to share and like and subscribe and all that.
That's
Yep,
right.
yep.